this one came across the desk, and I don't usually pick up things like this, but I did, and I opened it and I took it home, and I absolutely love it. It is a book called Advanced Style, which has to deal with women of a mature age, 60 and up, and their fashions and styles and how they are fabulous and fierce. And it's really just a pictorial piece done by Ari Cohen. So there's a lot of fabulous pictures in here, there's interviews, there's quotes from these wonderful mature women and how they are just killing it in their life. And so I really just recommend it's a short read, quick read, and actually just a beautiful, beautiful book. And apparently what I found out later is that there's a sequel to this that I will be looking for as well.
I'm kind of the niche interest person at the circulation desk, so my taste might be a little unusual. So the first one is called The Butchering Art that I would recommend. It is by Lindsay Fitzharris, and this one talks about Victorian medicine and actually how Joseph Lister, yes, that Lister that we named Listerine after, how he actually started sterilizing wounds with carbolic acid, and just kind of the medical revolution that he caused by actually sterilizing tools before use during surgery. So it's just kind of a history on how Victorian medicine was completely changed around by this one gentleman.
The Ghost in General Patton's Third Army. Now this one's an adult nonfiction, and if you are a history buff, particularly about World War II, I think you'd really enjoy this book. Fun fact, the author, Eugene Schultz, is my grandfather, and he lives here in the Milwaukee area and has spoken here at the Germantown Library before about his memoir and about some of the events that he talks about in this book. Of note, he witnessed one of the first concentration camps that was discovered in Germany, and he also writes about a little known event that happened in France as his troop was traveling through France. His colonel rescued a cathedral from being shelled and was hailed as a hero and is still remembered for it. Especially since it was just Memorial Day here, there's that connection with the colonel who saved the cathedral. You can read all about it in the Ghost in General Patton's Third Army.
I am currently reading this one. It's an older book, 2017. It is, I would say, equal parts funny and heartbreaking. Eleanor's backstory is slowly revealed to us. We're slowly finding out why she is the way she is. I'm enjoying it very much. I'm not done with it quite, but I hope it has a happy ending.
Hi there. I'd like to recommend 2 books of poetry. The first is called 40 Sonnets by the Scottish poet Don Paterson. He's a poet working today. He's won every award going in the UK, and he's quite popular in a minimal way with readers of poetry and poets in the US. These 40 sonnets, some of them are experimental, some of them are traditional, but they deal with the perennial themes of family, death, sex, science fiction, life. They're really, really interesting, and I recommend it. And another British poet, although he's half German and he spends half his year in the US, Michael Hoffman. This is his latest book of poems. He had a 20-year break from writing poetry. He's quite big in the poetry world. He's a big translator of German novels, so if you've read some Franz Kafka or someone like that, there's a good chance it was translated by Michael Hoffman, and they're quite dense but very interesting and lightly humorous poems, so heartily recommended.
It's called The Flat Share by Beth OLeary. It's an adult fiction romance, and it's about a girl who breaks up with her boyfriend and needs to find a place to live, and so she rents a flat that's shared with a guy who works third shifts, so they never see each other. But they kind of develop a relationship through notes on the fridge and stuff like that, and it's really cute and wholesome. But there's also a really great kind of conversation and nuance about the difficulties of relationships, post-traumatic stress, and sort of difficult things like that. And so I think the book does a really wonderful job of balancing these difficult conversations with really wholesome and wonderful, just like budding relationships. And it, of course, has a happy ending as a romance. And I actually listened to the audiobook and would highly recommend, as it uses 2 different narrators to describe the different points of view that it's told in.
Today I am talking about The Lions of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis. This is a really wonderful historical fiction novel. It's set in both 1913 and 1993, and it takes place around the New York Public Library. So lots of library information, lots of really cool library stories in here. It also is in a playaway form, which is a really cool way to listen to audiobooks. We have this device here, and you just stick your headphones in and stick a battery in, and you're good to go. So you can, lots of listening on the go. The book also comes in regular print and large print, and it's available online through Libby Overdrive, so you can listen to it a ton of different ways. And Fiona Davis is a really great historical fiction author. She wrote The Dollhouse, The Address, and The Chelsea Girls. So lots of other great books if you're interested in this author and a good historical fiction book.
Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and it is an older book, but it's still a good read. It's a great summer read. I like to consider it a summer read. It is a book about 2 characters, mainly 2 characters, Louisa and Will. Louisa is trying to find herself a little bit. I think that she's looking for some direction, and she's maybe not the most confident person in the world. And then Will, who was an active person in his life and then is in a tragic accident and needs assistance. So Louisa comes in as a caretaker for him, and he's a difficult customer because he is just very depressed and unwilling and very unhappy person. And Jojo doesn't give in to him and tries to find the best way to help him. And in the middle of the story, they try to help each other. So it's a really good, feel-good story. It's a funny story. It's a sad story, and it's got a little bit of everything for a good summer read. So that's why I recommend this one.
One of the books that I liked a lot a couple years ago, I think it was a 2019 publication, Gods of Jade and Shadow. It's set in the 1920s in Mexico. Cassiopeia is kind of a Cinderella. She's working basically as a servant for her grandfather. She accidentally frees a Mayan god of death from a wooden box. So things get very interesting in her life at that point. She accompanies him on a life-changing adventure through the Mayan underworld. So it's got a lot of Mayan mythology in it, so just something you don't usually find in books. And I really think Guillermo del Toro needs to make a movie of this book because it would be amazing.
Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. And this one is one of those stories that goes back and forth between perspectives. The story itself is about a young woman whose father wrote a story kind of akin to the Amityville Horror or one of those haunted house stories, and he claims to have run out of the house in the middle of the night. Now, the main character has never really believed this, and so it's her quest to go and find out the truth of what happened in this haunted house. And also it goes back and forth between the actual book her father wrote. And it's a mystery. It's got some thrilling parts. I would highly recommend it if you're into mysteries.
Another book that I read this year very recently is The House in the Cerulean Sea. I would show you the book, but our 2 copies are checked out. Fans of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children would like this book. The concept is similar. Some very unusual children that live in a home. It's full of charming and quirky characters, including a were-Pomeranian, not a werewolf, a were-Pomeranian, and the Antichrist. which is an unusual combination there. This is one of the few books that has actually made me cry. I got so attached to the characters, but I will assure you it has a happy ending. But it's always darkest before the dawn, and when they were in that dark time, I was getting kind of teary-eyed. So it's all about finding your tribe and making a family for yourself, not of blood, but of spirit. So I enjoyed it a lot.
So this is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. It's an adult fiction romance, a really wonderful enemies to lovers tale about the first son of the United States and the Prince of England. And they sort of start out as antagonistic frenemies, but for the sake of international relations and international appearances, have to sort of make an Instagrammable friendship. They sort of end up getting to know each other and falling in love along the way, and it has a really great conversation about sort of coming out and family and country obligations, and all of the sort of complexities with that. But it is a really heartwarming, happy ending, and actually Casey McQuiston's new book, One Last Stop, is out now, and I myself am very excited to read that one too.